like, if I had to sum up what I've been through and what I felt this past month, it's exhausted. Mentally, physically, emotionally exhausted. And the more time I spend on social media or online or plugged in, whatever you want to call it, the more drained mentally I am. There's a lot of dumbasses. I don't even know where to begin. I hate debates, okay? I hate debates because I feel like they don't resolve anything. It's either you're going to convince me, which most likely you're not, or we're going to agree to disagree. I mentioned something on Twitter, okay? I watched the Little Richard movie. Shout out to Leon. He's one of my all-time greatest actors. Especially when he does portrayals of like or biopics, whatever, you know, Temptations, Little Richard. Anyways, that's besides the point. I was like, in my mind, I was thinking like, man, it really saddens me that people didn't give him his fair due until very later in his career, right? Because of the times, stuff like that. Like, this man literally is the god of rock and roll. Okay, they call him the architect of rock and roll. So this was my initial tweet. Not to discredit Elvis Presley, but you can't compare a king to a god. Rest in paradise, Little Richard, the architect, who was robbed of his royalness. Again, that is a factual statement. He was. Little Richard, to me, is the king. You know, they gave Elvis that label because he was mainstream. To be honest, he was white at the time. I just threw that out there in the void known as the internet. Wasn't extending an invitation to argue or be told otherwise, but a lot of dumbasses online feel the need and entitled to put in their 2 cents where it's not needed. It was a profile of someone who was a giant Elvis Presley fan. His argument was this. Elvis Presley was before Little Richard. Little Richard said on film, Elvis made Tutti Frutti bigger and me bigger. Elvis did not like being called the king. As he said, the king was Christ. Recorded live on stage. First of all, not that big of a deal, okay? Not that big of a deal. As I said, opinions are subjective. You might like Elvis. I might like Little Richard. Who cares? Who cares? Move on with your life. It's not that deep. But anyways, what did bother me was, first of all, this person's wrong. Just flat out wrong. Elvis was not before Little Richard. Little Richard is called the architect for a reason. He was one of the pioneers. The thing that bothered me was, brother, you live in the age of phones, tablets, computers. You have access to the internet. You have access to the internet clearly because you tweeted this. So you do have access to that. Now we are in the age where you don't even have to do research. You don't have to look things up or anything. You could just ask AI and they will give you the answer. So straight up, my response to that was this. I literally looked up, was Little Richard before Elvis? As I said, you don't have to do research if you don't want to, because, I mean, you got to do your due diligence. One thing I learned in production class when I was in college, or media class, is media literacy, right? Don't believe what your eyes see. Do your research, yada, yada, yada. I don't really have to go into it. But just with the simple search, just so you can feel more confident about your argument and your point, emphasize it. Show me receipts, okay? If you come at me like that, you better come correct. That's all I'm saying. Okay. Boom. I think this was enough to just shut down his argument or his statement, because clearly Little Richard was recording and becoming influential in the music scene before Elvis Presley became a household name. Okay, he began his career, Little Richard, in 1951. Okay, Elvis he gained his fame later in the 50s. Okay, this guy his handle, his tag is T Reader 1956. So I'm not gonna insult him. I'm not gonna say, hey, maybe you know a couple things, because 1956, he said that Elvis recorded 1954 and Little Richard 1955. I'm guessing he's talking about Tutti Frutti. Again, I do a simple search and read the summary of AI, because you don't have to look at this article, that article. You don't need to. Just a summary. Little Richard first recorded Tutti Frutti in 1955. He credited with originating the song and its famous refrain, right? Pat Boone also covered the song. It is known to historians and people who actually care about Little Richard and music in general and rock. Little Richard at the time, whenever he released a song, being a black artist, they would get Pat Boone to cover the song, and they would promote Pat Boone's version of the song, and they would push his version of the song, not Little Richard's. That's why it took so long for him to get the notoriety that he deserved. But anyways, Little Richard's original recording that became a hit, it influenced other artists. So obviously Elvis. But anyways, it says down here as well in Wikipedia. Like, if you don't like AI, if you're against it, open up the Wikipedia. Because Wikipedia says, oh, Tutti Frutti, right? 1956 by Elvis Presley. Little Richard recorded it 1955. I don't know. Is Elvis a goddamn time traveler? I don't know. Okay, I'm like, okay, I'm losing my patience with this jackass. Clearly, facts isn't enough, and he's not computing, concrete, set in stone events. It didn't end there. No. Like I said, again, we're in the age of AI. If you won't do your research, at least ask AI for the truth. Little Richard was a true pinnacle and influence of your favorite artists. The Beatles, James Brown, influenced stars in both rock, even MJ, that trickles down to currently. What I meant with this statement, which is a factual statement. This is factual, okay? Little Richard had his start, okay? He had influence in artists, okay? James Brown came after Little Richard. What did Little Richard do? He did what most people nowadays would say, co-sign or whatever. He brought him on tour. He gave him exposure. He influenced him. He gave him some game. That's widely known. Okay, James Brown becomes big. He influences people like Michael Jackson. I don't really have to go into that because we know Michael Jackson is heavily influenced by James Brown. And he said it his whole entire career. So that's what I mean by it trickled down to your favorite artist's favorite artists. Meaning, maybe MJ doesn't say, oh, Little Richard influenced me in my career. But he said, oh, James Brown did. And then James Brown is like, oh, yeah, Little Richard. So that's what I mean, right? Again, I feel like this is all factual. By the Beatles, I mean, in their Germany days, while they were touring the Red Light District, if you know anything about the Beatles, right? They were starting off. Okay, they didn't have the exposure of the US or Ed Sullivan Show or any of that, or Shea Stadium, whatever. But Little Richard did have them open for him. You can tell in some of the early Beatles records, they had the influence of Little Richard somehow, because Paul McCartney, the wooing and all that in the song, you can tell where they got that from. Like, you don't really have to go that deep into shit. Exits. The Elvis fan enters for some reason. Again, he opened the door that was not even open for the most pointless fucking argument that he was proven wrong in each step. In comes in another annoying ass motherfucker that thinks he knows everything again to kind of help out that dude. So in comes in Niall. And he just spews a whole bunch of articles and videos of people who influenced the Beatles more than Little Richard. Just because you're proving that there's other people that the Beatles mentioned as influences does not negate the influence that Little Richard had. Okay? Whether he had less influence than other people or anything, you're still not discrediting what I said. Like, he had some influence. So what is your point? What is your point? Here you go. Oh, he links Paul McCartney, Everly Brothers. Oh, where he says, oh yeah, I loved him. Like, Ed Cochran was one of the songs that Paul McCartney played to get into the Beatles group. At this point, I'm just pissed. I'm like, I'm exhausted now. I'm like, why am I just arguing with dumbasses that don't prove a point and also don't discredit me or go against facts? Like, I'm tired. This isn't what I browse social media for. This isn't what I use Twitter or any of my social media, even the streaming. Like, everyone has their corner of the internet, right? This is my small little space of the internet. I view social media as a void because I'm a small streamer. A lot of times when I express something or I say something, it goes unseen because the internet is so vast that for you to be recognized or for people to actually hear you, they got to go out and find you, okay? In the giant space that is the internet. So these guys come to my internet. They come to my corner of the internet. They come to my profile. They come to my stream. Like, you don't have to be here. The internet, that's what haters and negative people, it's like, bro, you don't have to hate. You can go watch what you like. You can go read tweets that you like. Like, you don't have to insert yourself where, like, whatever. I mean, he took them on tour with him. Whether that is the extent of his influence or whether it's his music or his style, he still has influence. What are you trying to prove? What are you trying to prove? At this point, I left the conversation. And he's like, they opened for Little Richard in shows in Hamburg, you mean? That helped the Beatles that are already established. So you yourself are saying that it helped the Beatles. You yourself are saying that it helped the Beatles, which is my point. He helped your favorite artist's favorite artist. This world is just dumb. They're just full of jackasses, bro. Like, honestly, you could have seen my tweet. You could have just texted, oh, you know what? He was cool, but Elvis is king. I would have been like, all right, cool. Elvis is cool. It's like when people talk about like Biggie or Tupac. Oh, West Coast, East Coast. Oh, whatever. Prince versus Michael Jackson. It's like you're gonna meet people that choose one side. You're gonna meet people that choose another. Nowadays, you can't even have an opinion on anything, because politically, if you're a Democrat, if you're a Republican, it's like you gotta live and breathe that, and it's like no war on both sides. If you're red and not blue, if you're conservative or liberal, if you're this or you're that, if you believe this instead of that, like it's like, bro, not everything is picking sides. Like, I don't know. I view it as like, when we used to have MySpace, you would go to that person's MySpace profile, right? They would have a song representing them. You would watch a whole bunch of every post or pictures and stuff. It's like, yeah, this is my space. This is my life. This is my favorite song. This is my favorite picture. These are my favorite artists. All right, cool. All right. But nowadays, I feel like if MySpace was a thing, it would be like, that song is trash. These artists are better than those. Oh, that picture is ugly because this is what's like. It's like, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Nobody cares. Nobody actually cares about you. You choose player 1 or 2. I'ma choose 3 myself, because that's how it is. That's how it is. But yeah, okay. Enough yapping about that.